Alright, video number 2. So yeah, like I said, this is gonna be a little collection video. So I kinda I only have the 2, but I kinda went on this thing that kinda sent me off into another different part of the collecting world for me. Uh so when I got this came into my work because like I've said in other videos, I work in a sporting goods department, which kinda you know adds to my addiction on these pocket knives. But this one really caught my eye, and I really fell in love with it really quickly. This one hasn't seen as much carry as some of my other knives because this is a little on the large side for me personally. Some days I do like a bigger knife. For an EDC, for me, the reason I like a smaller knife is because it's a little less off-putting. Um, if I'm cutting up a tag for something for a customer, or if I'm breaking down boxes in the public eye, it's a little easier for me to pull out a smaller knife rather than a bigger knife. Even if it is kind of artsy and kind of a really nice looking knife like this, it's usually a little easier to pull out a smaller blade. A lot of people tend to freak out if you pull a large knife, even if it's just for utility purposes, which always kind of hinders me a little bit in my, well, not so much my collecting, but in what I can carry. But in my everyday life, I don't care. I grab whatever, and people have to deal with it because I'm on my time. Um, Random tangent there, but yeah. So what we're looking at today is the Crkt Outrage, another Ken Onion design. And again, like I said in other videos, what really brought me to this knife is the blade shape. That's what caught me first. And when I saw the blade, I was just like, I have to have that knife. I battled with it back and forth because I know for a lot of you it's nothing, but for me the $40 mark is kind of like a little outside of a spontaneous buy for me. Like for me, depending on the week, that could be a decent chunk of cash of free money. Um, but that's besides the point. When I saw this knife, I was just like, I knew I eventually had to have it. The ergonomics on it is just amazing. It fits the hand really nicely. The jimping is amazing. The lines on this knife is just gorgeous. So if you look, these little cut-ins here into the scales, or in this knife, the frame, are actually a part of the jimping, which is really cool. The dots inside this it's little mock inlay, really cool design. It's got this really cool kind of matte anodizing on aluminum, which is kind of grippy, which kind of helps in its utility. And again, another cool thing about this knife, just like the other Crkt, the thumb ramp is actually on the frame, not the blade. The jimping kind of cuts into the blade, but really you're grabbing onto the blade itself and not so much the knife. Really cool pocket clip compared to other stuff that's out there, especially on a production level for affordable EDC. And this, in my opinion, is a step up from the Crkt, because these guys have the KVT bearing system on it, and it just flies out amazingly. And for a $40 knife, probably around $30 if you look around online, I mean, the flipper on this thing is just amazing. I mean, look how fast that is. And it comes out with authority. But the one thing that I'm not such a big fan of is the flipper tab here is really aggressive. I mean, it kind of tears up my finger after a little bit, so I don't play with this one as much just because of how aggressive the jimping is. The blade centering, amazing out of box. The color is really cool. I'm a big fan of OD green myself. If I can, I'd like to get things in OD. The scales over the frame is the airplane grade aluminum, whatever that means. Your blade, I'm going to assume this one might be OS 8, but if I'm not mistaken, but if not, it's HCR 13 MOV. Which again, good blade steel in my opinion, depending on the heat treat. I've gotten HCR that was fucking shit, and I've got some that were pretty good. That was an amazing step up from other ones. In the use I have carried with this guy so far, the blade's holding up nice. I wish I could say I babied this thing because there's not as much wear on here. Because as you've seen, or as you can see, there's more wear on the frame, nicks and dings in the aluminum, than there is on the actual blade itself. The satin on this one is really nicely done. The polish over the satin is also really nice. The amount of blade and the fit and finish you're getting for the amount of money you're paying, in my opinion, is just amazing. The only thing I'm not a big fan of with this knife, and it's probably just because it's not as broken in, is it's not as smooth as I would like. You hear that? It's a little grindy on the way out. You hear a little before the pop. I know I should have been a sound guy. But anyway, other cool things in this knife is the jimping on the lock bar. Because this is a liner lock knife. The amount of details on here too, because you see a little bit of beveling in here too, which is really nice for especially trying to get to the lock bar. You got a plastic, maybe ABS spacer back here with a little bit of jimping on it that actually has some traction, which is really nice for having some polymer, plastic, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, another cool thing I like about this, again, as you can see, this one we do not have the studs. And where's the lock bar? That's a good question. You're very observant. Actually, inside here is the lock bar. It's sitting right about here. And it's got an internal lock bar. So there's a cutout in the blade of the knife, a little channel grooved in, and there's a lock bar sitting in the blade. So when it flies open, it slides through this channel and locks up internally. So that way you don't have, again, a really sleek looking, really nice looking knife, because you don't have a big old stop pin hanging out and being an eyesore. The lanyard hole I wish was a little bigger. It was kind of a little bit of a pain trying to get a lanyard on this guy, because you have a really deep carry on this knife. Let's see, so in pocket, that much of it sticks out. So I like having a lanyard on this guy, because even though it's grippy, it's not the best. So that's why I have such a long lanyard on here. So when I go and reach in the pocket, grab it here, grab the lanyard with the hand, and it's easier to get out of pocket. Thank you, Crkt. Finally, one of your knives I can be like, yay, tip up design. But what I was saying at the beginning of the video, this led me into another direction, with my pocket knives, because at first when I got this was like, ooh, another canned onion, right? Because we fucking love the leek so much, right? Everyone in the world loves the leek. Or the chive, or, you know, the other Kershaw line from canned onion, the blur, the blackout. Canned onion just really knows his shit. He just makes a beautiful knife. When it's time to touch up this knife, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a pain in the fucking ass, cause all the different angles and sweeps and all this stuff. But it really does make for a gorgeous knife. But again, once I got the knife, it became less about canned onion and more about bearings. Because let's take a look. Let's take a little step off our path. The speed safe, right? The assisted knife. The thing I do love about the Kershaw assisted knives with the speed safe is all the speed safes I have, the spring hasn't worn out. The phosphor bronze doesn't gunk up. You know, when you get a lot of the assisted knives, they're a lot of, like, you know, some of the El Cheapo shits, like I have kind of like some of the M-Techs, or, you know, a lot of that, and they have the nylon bushings in there, and once the oil dries out, they kind of barely fucking move. But what I really noticed with these speed safes is I've never had that issue. They kind of keep their lifespan in speed. But with bearings, this really blew my mind, because now, as long as I keep up on the upkeep, I never have to worry about a spring wearing out, about a spring losing its lifespan, about, you know, them getting a little sloppy over the years. Because with the bearings, now they're just on bearings. I just have to take it out and make sure I'm keeping the bearings nice. Clean them, re-oil them, pop them back in. And I have a knife that's just as fast and just as authoritative as a spring-loaded knife without the spring. And as you can see, this one is not as smooth as the Kershaw, but in opening it is. So in my mind, this was a really nice step up from the Nura. Because out of box, I had to do no maintenance. I didn't have to touch it up. I didn't have to play with the pivot. The blade centering is amazing. The lockup, side to side, up and down, flawless. Everything locks up super tight. And that's, I guess, kind of broadened my eyes of the potential of a bearing assisted knife. Well, I don't even know if you call it assisted, but a bearing system knife. The smoothness of it, that authoritative whack. This one, I wish I could say I was more of a fan of, but since it's the aluminum frame, you get that twang and kind of get the little bit of grindiness of the bearings. Everything kind of residuates through the aluminum, so it's not as fun as some of my other bearing knives, but the speed of it. And I'm pretty sure once this guy breaks in and is pretty damn smooth, I will absolutely love this knife. But yeah, so that's my thoughts. That's a little look at the Crkt Outrage by Canned Onion. Alright, you guys, this is Davis signing out. You guys have a good week. Good week? It's my weekend. But yeah, enjoy.